Welcome back to another video of the Pandas tutorial series. In this section, we will be looking at different methods by which we can preview the data in a dataset. As discussed in the previous video, typing in so_data will give us a preview of the data in a dataset. We can also preview the data in the data frame using the head function. The head function by default will show you the first 5 rows in our data frame. Stack overflow data.head. So by default, it will show the first 5 rows in our data frame. Now, if you want to see the first 10 rows instead of the first 5 rows, we can just pass the number of rows into the bracket. So this will now return the first 10 rows. As we can see, 10 rows are returned. Similarly, if you want to see the first 2 rows, we can just pass in the number of rows and it will return only the first 2 rows. Now this is to see the initial rows. So instead of seeing the initial rows, if we want to see the last rows of our data, we can use the tail function. Data.tail. And just like the head function, by default, this will give the last 5 rows. The tail function also can be passed with or without a value. If I want to see the last 10 rows, I can just pass in and I get the last 10 rows. If I want to find the dimension of the dataset, that is, if I want to know the number of rows and columns in our dataset, I can use the shape attribute. The shape attribute gives us the number of rows and columns of our data in a tuple form. To do that, I can just type in data.shape. From this, we can infer that our data has 64,461 rows and 61 columns. Now, if you want to know more details about the dataset, such as the data type of the column, the null values, the number of entries, then we can use the info method. .info. As we can see, there are 61 columns in our data and the different data types of these objects. Also, when we look at the non-null entries, we can see that there are some columns with null values. In the next section of the tutorial, we will look at how to deal with duplicate entries in a dataset.